Hello, thank you for joining me on another episode of the AW Confidential podcast. I'm so excited for today's guest. He is the winner of an Emmy for his work on CNN's United Shades of America Season 2. He has appeared on Chelsea Lately, Kevin Hart Presents Next Level, and has guest starred on several shows, including Stuck in the Middle, Love Daily, and Shuteye. You can also catch him on HBO's Insecure. Most recently, I listened to Ron on a podcast, and I was completely taken by some of his comments about relationships, and I wanted him to share them with our listeners. Ron, how are you, Ron G?
What's up, young lady? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you
Good
for
to hear
being on
you.
this show. We had a few technical difficulties prior to the recording for all. And Ron was quite patient with me.
I was.
So I'm gonna try not to put you on the hot seat, but you might end up there anyway. First of all, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
And
having me.
congratulations on your Emmy.
Thank you.
One more than Kevin Hart. I
That's
saw that
funny.
interview. That was good.
I appreciate it.
So I first became familiar with your name listening to a podcast you were guest on, and you offered a fresh perspective on men, women, and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Your honesty was really, it was refreshing. It was easy to connect with you, and your humor makes it super easy to digest some of the truths that you share, especially on your Thursday night on Instagram show, The Couch.
Yeah, appreciate it. Couples couch. Yeah, thank you.
So, first of all, I'm curious, what inspires you to, put this information out there? I mean, you're pretty honest about, your relationship and, your thoughts on men and women dating. What inspired you to do that? It's bold.
Well, honestly, if you ever hear my stand-up, I'm very relationship heavy in my stand-up, and I've always been pretty dope and intuitive in that lane. But after I got married, I realized I had a whole other platform that I never explored before, because it's one thing to be in the front seat of your car saying, hey, women, all you got to do is, or what you need to do is, men, all you got to do is, but it's another to have your person next to you and you say it, because I think in our culture, it's hard to be something you never seen before. And the cool thing about me and my wife is I felt like we only been married 2 years, but we went through literally 11 of our friends got divorced in 2 years, like 11. It was 10, but now it's 11 and maybe a half right now. But 11 of our friends got divorced. And I was like, yo, we got to talk about this part of relationships that nobody talk about. Because no matter what your religious beliefs are or cultural beliefs are, most cultures and religions push marriage. Like, you got to be married, you got to get married, but they don't give you the tools to help you sustain once you get into marriage, because you don't consider sexual abuse, emotional abuse, past trauma, childhood trauma, relationship trauma, how you were raised in your household. Nobody considers all that stuff. All you think is you see Instagram and you see couples goals and couples on beaches and boats talking about couples goals, but they don't talk about the ugly part. So me and my wife, our first year of marriage was literally in quarantine. And so our time together kind of sped up. So we went from 6 months having a good time to, wait, we can't go outside no more? Like, this is it? And so,
It's like
I
shock
feel like
therapy.
we did like a year and a half in quarantine, which I think is equivalent to 5 years, and found out like we really like each other. Because most people were the opposite. During quarantine, they found out they didn't like the person, because whatever you signed up for, I feel like God gave you the receipt for it. If you marry somebody just because they got money, and then you find out the restaurant is going under because nobody's going, are you really in it for them? You know what I'm saying? Or are you marrying somebody because they cute, and then now quarantine happens, and now you stuck with the kids and them, and they can't cook and they're not good company, then that's your receipt. So us experiencing all that, we was like, yo, we got to talk about it. So that's a part of the reason, my why. Like 11 divorces in 2 years, like, it's scary.
It's scary, for sure. And it's really interesting because you tackle topics that are completely relatable. A lot of them we don't want to talk about. Now, what is the number one topic that you've shared on Couples Couch, Thursday on Instagram,
Mhm.
that has received the most, attention or the most feedback? I'm curious about that.
Honestly, I feel like the one about dating somebody who has deals with mental illness or depression. As a comedian, I have extreme highs and lows with my career, and I have moments where I'm like, "Oh, I'm popping, it's amazing." And then I'm like, I'm on suicide watch because I can't get a phone call back from nobody, And it's a tough thing to be with somebody, to choose somebody who has a career field. There's no stability, but also in this time we live in, there's no stability. Like the world can shut down again, and then what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So even the people who have a stable 9 to 5, there's so much uncertainty and anxiety about the future. We all kind of experience it in some kind of level, and I'm watching my friends have mental breakdowns on social media, crying on camera, and I'm watching these people like having these hard moments, but we're acting like it's okay because we celebrate crazy on social media because it's good TV. But I feel like a lot of us are really dealing with that. And then if your partner's going through it or you the person, how do you navigate through loving on your person while they're going through their moment? And is there mental illness or depression? Is it a season or is it a cycle? And you got to decide whether you want to be along the ride for a cycle or a season. And you don't know until you get to a certain point. And like, can you deal with it forever, or is this just a moment? But again, nobody takes inventory and talk about this stuff. So me and my wife, we talked about me battling depression, and she kind of actually recently posted about her wanting to be with me when she saw me in I call it the cloud, when I had the cloud. And she was like, I saw you in a happy space, so I knew you had it in you.
I saw that.
I had to tough it out with you, and I knew that you were going to get through it because my love was big enough to do so. So
I
that's,
have a
yeah.
lot of respect for you. One of the things that I wrote about in my book was my depression after I got divorced, and it really made me feel very vulnerable. So I appreciate your honesty and just your openness to do that, because it's really hard.
Yeah, I think I realized my triggers. My trigger for depression usually is when my head and heart is in two different places. When my
Wow.
head and my heart are in two different places. Meaning
Wow.
like I see what I want, but my heart tells me something different. The love that I think I deserve, I don't get it, but my head, I see the visual of, oh, this is supposed to work out. That's because my last relationship is what triggered my depression, where I saw we made too much sense. On paper, made all the sense, like all my check boxes, but the way I felt love did not add up what's in my head, and that struggle sent me into a dark place. And so that place is hard to get out of. And one part of that getting out of that dark space is, one, you have to have your funeral. When you have your funeral, meaning like it's never going to happen again, you have to tell yourself this is never going to happen again. And two, you got to forgive yourself. It's one thing to forgive your person, but when you forgive yourself for allowing yourself to go down this road that you wouldn't normally do in your normal state, you got to forgive yourself and you got to have your funeral. And both of those are really hard. Nobody teach you how to have your funeral.
I love the fact that you spoke about that conflict between your head and your heart. Just coming to that place, that truth, I know it must have been hard. And for you to have that awareness, that's wow, that's huge, because that's something that a lot of us deal with and we don't even realize. As soon as you said it, something clicked. I was like, wow.
I saw your face light up too. I saw your face like when your head and your heart in two different places, it's hard. And that's where you really got to trust God and have faith. Like we all brag and say we love God and have faith, but do you really have faith enough to like trust him during your ugly? And then you have to reflect on the hardest part for me for my breakup was forgiving myself, because I got all the signs. But at the time I thought I had a special kind of love and prayer life that can fix
It
whatever
was
was
going to
broken in
change
them.
everything.
Yeah, oh, and nothing happened. But he gave me my signs. As much as I want to blame them, literally I participated in the part that I thought was crazy. As much as I want to blame them, I participated in the toxic part. So it ain't all their fault. But we
I've
don't want to take
heard,
accountability for that.
I've actually heard you talk about this, and I'm not sure if it's intuition, if it's, some people call it their gut, but you do know when someone is not right for you, when a situation is not right for you. The fact that you ignore it, whether it's you or me, whoever, that is a choice. You're right. We are ignoring what's in front of us. You just feel it in your heart of hearts. That I believe. So the fact that you can share that you are aware of that, that's something that no offense, a lot of men either don't have,
Women
or
too. Oh, sorry, got you. Okay, never mind.
hey, we have women's intuition. We
Means
ignore it.
nothing when your heart is involved. Your intuition means nothing when your heart is involved. If your heart is not involved, their intuition is always on point. But when your heart is involved, y'all will run that red light every time. But I digress. I yield my time back to the podcast.
Well, we're going to get to an interesting part of the podcast. So there was something that you said that just, it literally, like, it struck me like a lightning bolt. You spoke about how men put women into buckets. And
Three
I
buckets.
want
Three categories.
buckets. And I want you to share with the listeners what buckets you're referring to.
Okay. So I'll explain the buckets and I'll tell you how I got to that conclusion. Men usually put women in three categories. You're either wifey, fun girl, or seat filler. Wifey, fun girl, and seat filler. When you're wifey, you never have to ask your position because usually we see who you are to us and we don't want to share you with the world. We make it clear you don't have to ask where do I stand. You don't have to ask what is this going. Like, you know it because we treat you like it. And in our head, you're our princess and you can never mess it up. We'd be like, she way too crazy to be fine. This is my person. Only you can mess it up. Then you have fun girl. Fun girl is usually the girl we hang out with. We have all the fun with. You know, you don't usually go out on dates. We don't hold your hand. We not hanging out when the sun is out. We will hang out with you the day after the holiday and be like, we got to work or our phone was off or got a business something. And most of the time you know it, but you can't really say it because then at that point you become a jerk, even though you kind of know that we both know it, but nobody want to say it. But the person who says it is usually guilty of you used me. I'm like, how did I use you? And you only called me when you left work at 12:30 at night. That's the only time you call me, but now I'm using you. Really? Okay. And then you have seat fillers. Seat fillers is the tough one because seat fillers not really a bad person, but they're not your person. You know it deep down. That's usually like the equivalent of the guy that women use for meals. You know that he's not your guy, but you go, you know, he's going to feed you. So you go hang out and it's not a bad time. And hey, look, I'm hungry. So let's go eat together. Hey, I want to go to a movie. You at my house. Let's go. It's not a bad thing, but they're not your person. And again, you kind of know it, but to them, they're like, oh my God, you used me and you led me on. But at the same time, you kind of knew it because their excitement usually dwindles. And you're like, well, in the beginning, you start doing this, but usually that's when a man sees something they don't like. And they're like, yeah, you're cool, but you're not my person. And most of the time, men, we know up front, like we know that you're not our person, but we kind of hang out. Because the question is, what do you do in the meantime until you find your person? Do you do nothing? Or do you hang out with this person who's not a bad person, but you know they ain't your person? You know what I'm saying? And how I got to that conclusion, ladies, I'll give you some advice. There's only two things you need to know when you're dating a man. One, is he ready for what you say you want? If he wants to get married, if he wants a commitment. And two, are you the one? Two things. Does he want what you want? And are you the one? That's all you need to know. Once you find out you're not the one, you can leave. Or you can stay and then be like, blame him for saying he led you on when you got every sign that God gave you. And that's how I got to the point. I got to that conclusion because I feel like I was always a husband. Even when I dated, I was always a husband, but I never dated like I said I was the person I said I was. Like I was always a husband. Like the way I function, like how we do now, we're talking now, I never small talk and I always showed up like a husband. I don't small talk. I got grown man conversation. I love God. I knew I was supposed to have a wife, but I rarely met the girl who I was like, you're my person. Like I've been living in LA for a long time, but I rarely went on a date and I'm like, you're my person. And it wasn't until I got clear about it. That's why I said, women, you have to make sure he's ready for what you want. Men, we kind of know what we want, but until we're ready, it doesn't matter what you do. You could be in shape. You could be the nicest girl ever. You could do all the stuff for him and be like, you know, why did you leave me on? And he really wasn't ready. But when he's ready, guys don't take that long to figure it out. So That's when I got to the conclusion of it's three categories. But until he's ready, it doesn't matter what you are. You're never enough to a man that's not ready.
So how about those women, and I've come across them, who will be with a guy for 10 years. That's his girlfriend. But it never goes past that. Is that a seat filler or is that wifey? They've been dating for 10 years.
Means nothing.
What do you mean it means nothing?
You teach a man how to treat you. The person who leaves the car dealership usually gets the best deal, but the person who stays and tries to negotiate usually gets hustled.
Okay.
Now, if you want to be married, and you tell him up front, I want to be married, and 7 years in, you have kids and you don't have a marriage, what are you telling him? Is that his fault, really? Because you have full authority of your body and your life and how you want to be loved. But once you find out you're not getting what you need, that's why I said, one, find out if he wants what you want, and two, find out if you're the one. The one never has to question who she is, because you know it.
Really?
Yeah. And again, you can blame him if you want to. It's like calling a guy F-boy. Like, he's an F-boy. He ain't got no job. He ain't got no car. He live with his mama, but you got pregnant by him. Whose fault is that? Is that really his family know he trash? His friends know he trash, but you committed to him. So
my mom always said, you show a man how to treat you.
Exactly. Your mom was absolutely right.
So how did you come to this place? Because is it a thing where, you know, men go into it and say, you know, they sort of look at you and say, okay, she could be wifey, she could be fun girl, she could be, you know, seat filler, or is it something that just happens over time?
It happens over time, but usually men commit to the woman who holds them accountable.
Ooh.
Like all my friends that are married, they commit, and it's not, and I just posted about this. Matter of fact, I think I got a post I'm doing today. Men usually commit to the woman that holds them accountable, meaning like, and it's not in a controlling, like you need to, it's like, okay, well, this is what I want. And if you don't want that, I'll let you be great. I'll let you go do you and have a good life. That's the guy, that's the girl who usually get the man she want. But the girl who's like, I need you to pick me, choose me. Hey, and then they usually give the man all the power that the man didn't ask to have. Then they mad at them. You've done all the wifey stuff. You've given him cash and prizes. You cook for him. You show up for him like he's a wifey, and y'all been dating for a month, and you're mad at him for not choosing you. He has nothing to fight for. Every man, we're built to hunt. We're hunters by nature. But if there's nothing to hunt, and you've given us everything, you have no bargaining chips. You have no bargaining power at all.
Do you really believe that? Yes. Like, seriously believe that?
Yes, I've met girls who be like, you're my husband at week 2 because the sex was dope. We had a great time. And she was like, you're my husband. And I'm like, you never gave me a chance to choose you. And now you're mad at me and you want me to own your vulnerability. My job is not to manage your fears. My job is to partner with you. But if you don't give me a chance to be a partner and you want me to just manage your fears, what am I supposed to do? I'm cool on that because it feels smothering. You never let me choose you.
So when you met your wife, she's gorgeous, by the way. Did you know that was going to be wifey?
Initially, no. But the way I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
Initially, no. And usually I say within the second date, you usually know as a man. But my wife was different because we had cultural differences and we had some religious differences that were like, for me, it was like my core stuff that I'm like, I can't compromise on this. And that for me, I had to really question everything in order to even get to that place. But when she was in my space or when I was in her space, I always felt loved. I always felt like she cared, and I felt like she was my friend. And when we had our first big argument, I still felt loved. And I that was very unfamiliar to me. To argue with somebody, because I think we had an argument one time, and she was like, look, I just want to tell you how I feel, and that's all I got to say about it. So, and I still love you. But if you got anything else you want to say, just let me know. I was like, that's what a disagreement feels like with you? I'm used to, you don't tell me what to do, I'll fight you and your mom, blah, 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 like from 0 to 10. And that's what I'm used to. But when somebody comes to a grown woman and made me feel loved, I was like, yo, like, if this is what disagreement feel like, sign me up. I can do this.
It's interesting because you said that she's a friend. Do you believe that that's what, you know, and every man is different, but generally, do you think that men want also a friend, not just, you know, all the...
Absolutely. So can you imagine going to a job where you have to shrink and be something that to make sure everybody else is comfortable? Like usually women of color, when you go to a job, you have to shrink in order to fit into their space. You know you're the smartest person in the room, and y'all go through so much stuff that the average non-white person doesn't understand. You can read a room in 2 seconds and be like, oh, she's crazy. She doesn't make any sense. She gets credit for being the boss, even though she doesn't even know what's happening. You can read that room in 2 seconds, but in that space, you can't say that because you have to shrink. That's what love feels like with a person who doesn't get who you are and doesn't let you be your best self. My wife, I'm a comedian. I get the chance to share all my ugly. If I see a girl with a big butt, I can say, hey, she got a big butt. She crazy. She walking like she got a whole wagon on her. Like, I can say all that on stage. But if I'm with my wife and I see a girl with a big butt and now I gotta act like I don't see it and be, you know what I'm saying? Or if she asks me, how do I look? And I'm like, I don't like her outfit. And I'm like, yo, that outfit is trash. Like, that ain't it. Oh, why would you say that about why would you ask me if you don't want to know the truth? My wife, I never had to compartmentalize our love in any kind of way. I could be my authentic self in her space, which was very rare. And I like that. I like the way it made me feel. And it made me like want to tell her more about myself. Example, with my previous, I used to tell her everything. I told her about my past because I wanted to be the guy who like I share my stuff. I told her everything. And one time we had an argument and she brought up something that I said previously and used it in a context that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. And she weaponized my vulnerability. And I was like, you know what? You will never have my truth again because you can't handle my truth. As a black man, there's not many places where I can just let my hair down and be naked and share this is my truth. My wife, I can tell her my ugly and she won't judge me. She'll laugh and probably have a better story than me.
I love
It's not that hard. It's not that hard. To get the man you want, it's not that hard. But you got two things I tell women. Stop listening to your single friends and question your truth. Stop listening to your single friends and question your truth. Because your truth is not always the truth.
Okay, I need you to break that down because that is that's something that I write about often. Like our truth, let me speak for myself. My truth is ugly. I'm a hot mess. You know, I'm not perfect, although for many years I thought I was. But when you say, you know, when you talk about truth, what exactly are you talking about? Is it, you know, waking up in front of that guy without makeup? Is it, you know, showing him your vulnerabilities? What is that truth? What does that truth look like?
Example.
And I do like your comment about not listening to friends, but
single friends.
Single friends.
Single friends. Like example. He doesn't have a spark. We cool, but we don't have a spark. When you're doing life with somebody, it might not always be a spark. Like I love my wife, but sometimes we don't have a spark because we're doing life and grinding this thing out. But I still show up as if it's there. Like I was terrified when I got married. I was like, yo, I've never been in a relationship long enough to not feel what I'm feeling. I'm used to warm and fuzzy. I stayed until warm and fuzzy ran out. But then we doing quarantine. I'm around her all the time. There is no warm and fuzzy. Men, we have to chase. You know what I'm saying? But women be like, oh, there's no spark. Spark is only designed to last for a spark. Versus like, oh, he loves me. He shows up for me and my kids. We have a good time. He's not a boring person, but he comes home and it's kind of routine, which routine is not fun, which is what love is look like. Kids need stability. They don't need spark. The spark is for you. The stability is for the family and building something with somebody. So do you want stability or you want a spark? You know what I'm saying?
Both.
That's. But again, you can create that. You can create that. I live an extraordinary life, even though I kind of feel like I'm boring, even though I'm an interesting guy.
Boring is good.
Boring is the word no women hate. I don't want a boring man, blah, blah, blah. But what do you want your kids to be raised in? You want them to be raised in spark and excitement where you don't know where he going to be at? Or you want the guy who come home and he playing video games, but he still show up with his heart? You want the guy where he come home, work in the garage, and he's showing up? Because where in LA, boring is called boring. Where I'm from, boring is called family man.
What's your background? Where are you from?
I'm from the South Carolina.
You have
family men are boring. Family men are kind of boring. It's kind of routine, but that's what love is like.
But they're dependable.
Right, and see, whatever you've been through enough to know what that is. But a single woman on the other side, she wants spark. She wants a man who has 6 figures and a 6-pack. 6-pack don't take care of kids. 6-pack is caring about 6-pack. 6-pack ain't trying to make sure that you're good, knowing that, hey, you're going through something, you're depressed or you're sick, and you can't have sex. And he loves you even though he's not getting the thing he needs. And he still pulls up. That's what grown men do. That's what stability feels like. Or 6-pack can be in the gym while you laying in the bed sick.
In the gym next to him.
Right.
That's all. You just go to the gym together.
Right, but all the time you ain't gonna feel like that. That's what I'm saying. The grind is the ugly part. The grind is sick family member. Let me take care of my mom. I might not give you the love I need because my heart is not into it because my mom is sick or my dad is sick and I need to take care of my brother. Like that's what the real love is. But don't nobody talk about that. Single people trying to hit these streets and hit these islands and boats so you can talk about on Instagram, but that ain't the grind. The grind is the ugly part of marriage. You want somebody who can grind this thing out with you and be there for you. Or he a certain height. He cool, but his height ain't. I'm like, you want a man who's 6'3" to take care of you? I know some dudes that's 6 foot who are soft. They pussies, and I know dudes that are 5'8" who will brawl and fight for their entire family, who will tear the whole club up to protect their woman. But
so you're saying we need to be more realistic about what we want.
Instagram will keep you single.
Well, it's hard because we
really
all
hard?
there's
really
a checklist. There's a checklist.
But what if you don't get your checklist?
I mean,
you turn down a good guy. I met a girl who was 6 foot, and she said, "I don't want a guy who's 6 foot because I don't feel safe." I said, "A guy who shows up, brings his heart, plans dates, emotionally intelligent." She was like, "No, with a 6 foot man, I don't feel safe," and she's 6 foot. Okay, stay single.
So we need to get real about what we want. That's what you're saying. Real with ourselves.
You got to live in this real world, not the Instagram. Instagram and the metaverse ain't real. And it's not that hard to get the man you want. It's not that hard. If you find out he's ready, be sweet, be kind. Let him know you adore him.
Most of them aren't ready.
Most of who?
Most of the men out there, they're not really ready.
I know of a lot of ready men. But again, when they meet the girl, she ain't ready.
And they're divorced.
What does that mean? The women too?
Oh yeah.
It's not a woman-man thing. People are trash. Humans are trash. I know a lot of women that cheat. I know a lot of married women that cheat. I know married men
that's a whole nother podcast.
I know a lot. People are trash. The goal is to find somebody decent. All that other stuff is bonus. It's hard to find somebody decent. Just decent. Hey, look, I like you, but I don't know how I feel right now. Can we talk to this? Hey, I like you, but you did something I really don't like. I met a girl who I like. She lived in my hometown. Super cool chick. But she showed me that she was so terrified. She didn't dream, which I don't need her to be a dreamer. But when I explained, hey, are you willing to move here? Because I would put a ring on her finger. I was like, are you willing to move here to partner with me? And she was like, ooh, I don't want to know if I want to move. I don't know. And so I changed up. I stopped being the nice guy. I flew out to see her, but when I realized, my dad has this phrase. He said, I don't mind carrying you, but don't drag your feet. I would have to move you out here and your daughter, explain to you what my dream looks like. I don't know my next check coming. I'm a whole homeowner. I have everything I need. I'm debt free. But I would have to explain to her what my dream looked like because she's so used to getting a check in a 9 to 5. I could hear the fear. I could see the fear in her eyes when I explained to her, you need to be in my space to understand my depression and how my world is. I go to work at 8 o'clock every night. I don't get home till 12:30. Do you really want to sign up for that? When I travel, I might not be able to talk to you the whole time. I travel for a living. This is what I do. I'm around a lot of women. Can you really handle that, being from a small town? Can you handle women walking in between us trying to take a picture with me? Can you handle that? And I was trying to explain to her, and I could see the fear in her eyes. And I stopped being charming. And then she told me, hey, I realized you was awfully sweet and charming and considerate in the beginning, and then you changed up. I had to. I saw something I didn't like. You're seat filler now.
Okay. So
she didn't get my dream. I can't explain my dreams. You gotta have faith.
I respect you for that, because sometimes we just do things, either blindly or just because we want to be with someone. So the fact that you were, open and honest with her.
Dr. King did not know all the details of his dream. Dr. King did not know all the details of, hey, Coretta, I'm going to jail a few times. Hey, I'm going to be on this road and I might not be able to call you. Hey, Coretta, I might die early. He didn't know all his dreams, but his wife had vision and she became great because she saw it with him. She had to take care of the babies while he was changing the world. She had to give her husband away in order for him to be great and change our country. I don't have all the details of my dream, but my wife saw it. I knew she saw it because she's like, no, I'm a partner with you. We're going to figure it out.
So you were able to find that right person that supported you and your dreams. But and vice versa, I'm sure.
It's not that hard. I'm telling you.
It's not that hard. Do you know how many single people there are out there?
Do you know how many single people there are because they're unrealistic about what they want?
Ooh, that hurt. That hurt. You, it's finding that person to compliment you. I don't think it's that simple. I don't.
Okay.
I think you're lucky.
I think we overthink it. You're literally trying to find somebody to partner and do life with. It's that simple. You're trying to find somebody to do life with, help you raise your kids, help you pay this rent, whatever your situation is. It's not that hard. I didn't find that out until after I was married. I wish I could have told myself I would have got married earlier, but I didn't know because I thought it had to be all this magical, warm and fuzzy, and it's not that. It's literally finding somebody that you like. You enjoy their space. You enjoy their company. When you have hard moments, it don't feel painful, and it should feel like office work, not construction work. Finding somebody who you can do life with, and it feels like office work, is what love is. No more, no less. If you're doing all construction work all the time, it's not love. That's you managing fears.
It's a project.
Right, and you're usually arguing over pride, ego, or fear. Every time you argue, pride, ego, or fear of yours or of theirs.
So for those women that want to be wifey, what advice would you give them? What is the top 2 things that they need to do or should do, not need to do, because no one needs to do anything, for them to be wifey? Trust me, I don't want to be fun girl, and I don't want to be seat filler.
Right. Do you really move like wifey? Ooh. Do you really move like wifey? Wifey has a certain energy that when he comes into your space, he feels safe, he feels loved, and you're kind. I meet a lot of women who are bosses and CEOs, but they're not kind. I know a lot of mean married women, and their husband is usually 2 people. But she don't know that because she don't see it because she want what she want. Being nice is not that hard. Being like, I just talked to one of my homegirls. I was like, yo, your guy is a law enforcement officer, and he's a black man. He's hated by most people. Black people don't trust cops, and then he's the one black guy in the office. What does his life feel like when he's in your space? Does he feel loved? Does he feel, are you warm and fuzzy, or are you mean and dealing with your own stuff that you don't even see that what he has to go through? Or is it always about you? Is it always about what you got going on? Or are you like one thing I love about my wife is even when she works, she makes sure I eat. She'll work a 4-hour day and she's like, baby, did you eat today? I'll bring us food home. I've been home all day doing social media stuff, but she'll still, that little thing makes me happy because she cares about whether I eat even if she works. I don't need her to cook, but that's consideration. When I meet her, she is the sweetest person because I told her when I come home, I want my house to be the safest place on the planet. And that's my responsibility for setting the tone for that. When she come home, if we don't kiss each other when she get in the house, it's a problem. Whatever she got going on, unpack all that stuff. I'll let you get your moment if you need. But when you come in here, you come hug me, sit on my lap, and let's talk about it. She's always sweet to me, even when she have a terrible day. I'm the same way. If you saw my video about my depression, she's like, why the world get the best version of you, and then you come home and you got all depressed and sad? I had to change my energy when I got home because I'm charming. I know I'm charming. When I go to work and I make people laugh, I can charm the socks off anybody. But when I came home, I wasn't always nice to her because of my own junk. When I get out of my head and I learn to serve her when I'm not feeling well, then I get the best version of her, and I get out of my own head because it makes me happy to see her happy.
How did you get to that place where it sounds like you have a good balance? How did you get there?
In which area?
Your awareness of people, I'll be straight. Your awareness of women and what they can be like, I'll say, because so not all are the same. Just like,
of course.
But you seem to have that it's an awareness of women and of yourself, which I said before. How did you get there? Was it just experience?
This is what I tell people because sometimes they don't see it while they're in it. My last breakup literally changed my life. It literally changed my life, meaning I never had heartbreak before. I was always super happy and I'm a quote unquote good guy and all this other stuff, but I met somebody who really got to my heart. And because I'm a fixer, I jumped in and tried to rescue. I did the rescue mission. I saw it. I saw all the flags I need to see, but I jumped in and tried to rescue them out of the mud, and they were committed to the mud. They were committed to the dark area. And I'm like, no, we can pray about it. We can. And I realized that I was incapable of fixing them. And so I wound up in therapy. And
Don't worry, I've been
uh,
there.
yeah, I wound up in therapy. And my therapist gave me some really good advice. And I thought, oh no, my love is different from that. I can fix this. And I ignored his advice. And then after that, when I finally healed, I was like, you know what? I partook in the part that I want to blame her for. I jumped in the mud too, trying to rescue her, and I realized she was committed to the mud. Now I'm in the mud too, mad at her being committed to it while I'm committed to it too. That's why I said you have to forgive yourself. That's the full circle of what I'm saying. When I realized it was my fault and I took accountability for my junk, that's when I was like, oh, I have to manage my light because I know I give off light. I know I give off something really bright that people want. And when you have light, dark people that go through trauma, they are attracted to your light, but they never want to add to it. From your friends, from your family, from the people that you love you. They love your light. They like, oh my God, when we gonna hang out? I just wanna be in your space. Like, like you're a pretty girl. I'm like the dude's like, yo, and you fought for your happiness. You fought to get your happiness back because of your previous. You fought to find yourself after you've been through hell and back. And you did the work. Now somebody who didn't do the work and they like your light, oh, she's pretty, blah, 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 but they don't want to add to your light to make you better. And that's when I learned, like, as a man, part of as a man, we're taught to conquer. So you out here smashing chicks, that's a part of what the world tells you. But at the same time, the half the chicks I smash, they don't deserve my light or my energy. Because I gave off husband. I give you husband penis. And I'm like, oh, that's my buddy. And you're depressed. Now I'm depressed, trying to figure out why I'm depressed. And nothing happened in my life that made me depressed. I shouldn't share my light with people. Even though your creature comfort is having sex. Like, a part of being a human is like you want to, but then you have somebody in your life that you're doing that with and they're not even a happy person. And you're wondering why you're depressed. So I had to learn how to protect my life. Wow. That's how all this stuff came together.
That was powerful. And I completely understand about, well, for me, now it's become protecting my light because I've had that darkness. I completely know where you're coming from.
I can feel it. An immature me would feel something but not know what it is and try to investigate it. I would feel I don't know why I shouldn't be with you, but let me investigate and find out why. Versus now it's like, something don't feel right and I'm cool. It's I'm cool with us not being able to hook up because every time I call you, you're busy or you got something going on or I'm busy. I'm comfortable with it not working out because God is protecting me from something. Younger me would run that red light, try to figure it out, hang out with them and realize, why I feel weird every time I leave them. Something don't, even though the sex is dope, something don't feel, I don't know.
Well, I think the other thing is, and I try to end like all podcast episodes with something positive. I think one of the things that I always like to highlight is a lot of this has to do with self-worth. I think when you value yourself as a human being, as a man, as a woman, as value your spirit, you want to protect it. So for me, it comes down to self-worth. I want and deserve more. So I will ask for more. So if you don't feel you deserve it, you won't ask for it. True or not?
Absolutely. Specific word for you. You're kind of like me. Your pain was your platform. Your pain gave you a platform that you didn't know what was there. But if you didn't have the heartbreak, you and I probably wouldn't be talking right now. Like, literally, we're having this conversation because we said yes to our dream. And
you're right.
The pain had to happen, the hurt had to happen, and the healing had to happen in order to have this podcast. And sometimes when you and I are talking to other people, we can hear ourselves in our conversation and know, like, man, I'm supposed to be here. And some of the stuff shouldn't be scary. It should be confirmation, like, oh, I'm supposed to be here today. Like, you were supposed to reach out to me to have this conversation, to have some aha moments. But also, that aha is your yes to help somebody else. Because somebody else is going to go through what you're going through, and they're going to hear this podcast, and it's going to touch them in a way they never thought before. Because on accident, you heard my podcast, and now you're like, we having a whole conversation. We best friends now, and you can't do nothing about it.
You'll be back. You'll be back.
It's necessary.
We'll have another conversation.
Yeah. We're supposed to be here, man.
Ron, thank you so much for being here today. I want to ask you one more question. For all those females listening, please share something valuable about self-worth,
Let's do
self-love.
it.
What can you share?
Uh, Never give more than what you can afford to lose.
Oh, that is, oh, I have that
Never,
written.
never give a man more than you can afford to lose. And also, don't give a man power he didn't ask to have. You can't give somebody power they didn't ask to have and get mad at them for mismanaging it. If you know that you love sex, you know that that's your jam. Don't give it to a guy who ain't ready for what you want, and then get mad at him when he mismanages it. Don't do that. Don't be wifey and cooking for a man who hadn't even showed you that he wants a girlfriend. You have the power to control your life and show people how to love you. You have to take some accountability for how you teach people to treat you. Because how you start is how you end. If you start out loving out of lack, which a lot of us do, when you love out of lack, oh, I don't want you to leave me. Oh, I don't want you to find somebody else prettier than me. I don't, if you start out like that, that's how you're going to end. Versus, I'm dope, and when I show up, I make everything great. And if you don't see it, I'm going to leave. The person who leaves the dealership gets the best deal. When you say, hey, look, I want a husband. I like what we're doing. Sex is dope. Cool conversation. I see where you're going. I really enjoyed this. But I'm at the point now that I know I'm going to be locked in if I go any further with you. I can't do this again. My heart can't take this. I'm cool. If you're not cool with that, hey, go be great. Tell them.
Thank
Say
you.
it. Say
Thank
it.
you so much. Like you have, it's literally like a vast amount of, I want to say knowledge, but it's, I don't know. I keep going back to that word, awareness. So thank you so much for sharing, your experiences, your honesty, your jokes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Please tell everyone how they can find you because I want everyone to know about you. You're the bomb.
I am glad you asked. If you don't mind, please follow me, Comedian Ron G on everything, Comedian RONG. If you're ever in Los Angeles, I hosted the world famous Laugh Factory. I host a show called Chocolate Sundays. I'm on a TV show right now called Partners in Rhyme. Partners in Rhyme. It's on the All Black streaming service, ALLBLK. Watch All Black. You can go find that as well. I got 2 movies coming out. I got some cool stuff happening. So follow me, Comedian Ron G, Comedian RONG, and also go to my YouTube page, which is Comedian RONG. And I post a lot of this content, which I can't wait to hear this podcast live. So I can't wait to hear from you. And please follow me and don't block your blessing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening to the AW Confidential podcast. Talk to you soon.